Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Clutch Takes, the channel where we talk about all things going on in the NBA with a focus on the Toronto Raptors. Now, today we're talking about something different. We're talking about 6 players the Raptors could possibly sign in free agency. Now, I know it's a decent amount away, but this is still something fun to talk about, and it gives the Raptors some excitement. So please let us know who you think the Raptors could sign in free agency, and stay to the end as we give in-depth analysis on all of these players and why they make sense for the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm teaming up with the Warrich Report in this video. His channel is really great. He posts a lot of great Raptors content. Please make sure to subscribe to him. Link will be in the description. If you like what you see here, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It means a lot to me, and I like to interact with you guys, so leave a comment. Anyway, that'll be enough from me. Enjoy the video. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Clutch Takes, and today I have a special guest.
This is the Warrich Report. What's up, everyone?
And today we're going to be breaking down, looking into the offseason. We're looking at 6 free agents that the Raptors can go after. So why don't we get right into it? And
Let's jump right into it.
So the first one I want to talk about is Richaun Holmes. And I have my stats right in front of me right here. So he's having a career year this year. He's had 20 double-doubles, averaging 14 points, 9 rebounds, 1.7 assists. Also puts up a decent amount of blocks. And the Raptors were actually interested in him at the trade deadline. There was rumors swirling around. And the Raptors don't usually leak stuff. So obviously the 5 spot is going to be a huge focal point this offseason. And I feel like Richaun Holmes, he's only 27. I feel like he'd be a great fit on the Raptors. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I was looking at his stats as well, and a really good player. I believe his field goal percentage was something around the 65 mark. The only issue with him is he doesn't really shoot that three-point ball well, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But he is a young player who fits in our timeline well. He's only 27, so he's the same age as Pascal and Fred VanVleet. He can score points, he can rebound as well, and he's a good size as well. So it's not like he's going to be slow like Marc Gasol or Aaron Baines. He can run with the team a little bit, high-energy guy as well. So I think he'll fit in well with the Raptors.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, he's only 27. He does fit with the timeline really well. And I feel like he brings like a lot of energy. I remember him with the 76ers, and now that he's getting a bigger role, not being behind like players like Embiid, I feel like he's like a late bloomer, which is like a common thing with the Raptors, and I feel like he'd fit our culture really well. All right.
I totally agree.
What's your first one?
So I want to talk about Andre Drummond. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me and roll their eyes on this one, but Andre Drummond is a really intriguing player because he rebounds well. And I read something crazy online where it was a stat, something like he has the highest percentage of getting rebounds. So it's something like the amount of rebounds you get for your team while you're playing. I think it's something like that. And he has the highest percentage in NBA history. We know the Raptors are last in rebounding. Obviously, he doesn't stretch the floor, but you have to look at other things as well. What's the point of me personally? I don't get this whole hype about signing a big man who can stretch the floor. We signed Aaron Baines. What is he shooting? Like 19% from the three, something crazy like that. Marc Gasol was great in our first year, but you saw in the playoffs, he wasn't sure. He hit like maybe 2 threes in that Boston Celtics series. There's no point of getting a big man who can shoot the three if they're just going to camp out and teams are going to leave them open and they're not hitting that three-pointer. So personally, I feel like he helps our rebounding issues, but because we saw in a few late game scenarios this season, the latest being the Phoenix Suns, where we played great defense, but we were not able to grab that last rebound, and unfortunately we lost the game. I remember early on in this season as well against the San Antonio Spurs, we had that game and then we defended really well. And I think Patty Mills, of all players, got that offensive rebound late in the game and that cost us the game. So I know a lot of people may disagree with me on this, but we need to secure those second chance rebounds or those rebounds late in the game. And then also you look at his offensive rebounding as well. He can get those rebounds, and those are so crucial in the playoffs, as we saw against the Boston Celtics. In Game 7, I believe they had about 2 offensive rebounds in the last, I believe, minute or 2, and it cost the Raptors ultimately. Even though we did have a chance, Fred VanVleet missed that 3, but those rebounds also give you second chance points as well as secure those wins at the end of the game. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think Andre Drummond is a very polarizing player. Some people say he's not as good defensively. Some people say he has trouble scoring around the rim. I don't really think the Raptors need too much. I mean, like I've said, like they need a more inside presence, but it feels like that's coming, especially when Pascal is playing really confident. I mean, yeah, he definitely for sure would fix the scoring and the rebounding in the middle. One thing I would say is he might demand a little bit too much money, even though the center market is going down. And like you said about like stretching the floor, like you actually have to like hit the threes for that to be effective. As like you can shoot them, and if you're missing them, it's not really a bonus at all. So, um, I mean, if we don't, I feel like yeah, I feel like I would really like him on the team as a good fit. Just depends on the price, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's another thing I wanted to mention. So the thing is, he has to sign a friendly deal with the Raptors because he's going to get a good playing time with the Raptors. There's no competition really behind Andre Drummond. He'll get a lot of playing time and he'll also be on a really good team. I know we're obviously struggling this year, but clearly it's because we're lacking a true center. And he does solve some of the issues that are going on with the Raptors this season. But again, personally, I don't know what you would want. Andre Drummond, I'm not signing him for more than 14, 15 million. I think that's a little bit reasonable. I
Mhm.
don't know what Andre Drummond is thinking. He might get more, but as you said, it's not a really big man's market or big man's game anymore. So hopefully we
Yeah.
can get him for cheap. We'll see what happens. What do you think we can get him for?
I mean, like we saw in the offseason, I don't know if it was just because of COVID, but it seems like the center market for sure is going down as the non-premium centers in the league are getting paid less. And that brings me to a point as like we didn't want to pay Serge Ibaka or we didn't give him the money he deserved. And he signed a deal that I was kind of shocked. It was like he took a pay cut. He took like took a 2 year, $18 million deal, and he has a player option, right? And he's been out for like a while now, and it seems like they've been rotating between him and Zubac. I've heard they're not playing him as much in crunch time. It seems like it's not as great as a fit as they wanted him to be. Obviously, Ibaka wants to compete for championships, but he came off like a career year last year. Um, Last year, he averaged 15 points and 8 rebounds. So like that was like his best season. You know what I mean? And I feel like Baca plays really well with like a true point guard. He plays really well with Kyle Lowry, the pick and pop. It's Lowry may or may not be here next year, but he still has great chemistry with Fred Van Vliet. And like, why not, right? Like, why not bring him back?
Absolutely, I agree. So obviously, we were planning on trying to sign Giannis and other key free agents. Unfortunately, all of them did re-sign. And you know what? I think all of us were really sad to see Serge Ibaka go, but we didn't truly realize what he meant to the team. I think he was the glue guy to this team. Forget about
Mhm.
his stats, just a locker room guy he
Agree.
was. You saw him mentoring Terrence Davis last season, and he was really cool. If you watch those interviews with I believe it was a magazine Slam. I can't remember which one it was. He's making everyone laugh. He's that glue guy, and he kept the team together. And we've been hearing a little bit about the Raptors having locker room issues. We don't know who it is, but I feel like he was really that glue guy that helped keep the roster together and relax. And you know what? He provided some really nice scoring off the bench. And is one of those guys you can play in crunch time in the last few minutes of the games because of his rebounding ability, his ability to shoot the three, score, as well as defend well. So
Yeah, I mean, like, why not go with what you're used to, right? Like him in that series, like they left Gasol and Ibaka open. I'm talking about the Celtics series, and he shot like something like 50%. You know what I mean? Like he stepped up in the playoffs big time. And I don't like we both know that this Raptors team is not this bad, and we can have like a quick turnaround. So if we get back to the playoffs, he's definitely not a liability that you have to worry about. And yeah, he already has the continuity with the players. So he's definitely a player I would look at long and hard to bring back and right the wrong of trying to get Giannis. So who's your next one you want to talk
So my
about?
next player on my list is Jarrett Allen. So there were some rumors a couple weeks ago. The Raptors are amongst several teams being interested in Jarrett Allen. Now, of course, the issue is the Cleveland Cavaliers do have his bird rights, and he is a restricted free agent, so they can match any offer that any team throws at him. So it becomes a little bit of a challenge for the Raptors to sign him. Maybe we can do a sign and trade, but I don't know who they'd want back. It's a tricky situation. We'll leave that up to the general managers,
Mhm.
but he makes a lot of sense for the Raptors. He plays good defense. He can block shots. Now, he's not really known for his shooting, 3-point shooting. He can't shoot his threes, but he is very young. I believe he's 22. He's going to be 23 in a few weeks, but he fits that timeline well. He's a really good defender, tall defender as well. I believe he's 6'11", 240 somewhat pounds, so good
Mhm.
size as well, and he fits the modern game well. What do you think of him?
Yeah, when that whole Brooklyn trade went down, I really wanted the Raptors to get in on that, as I feel like Cleveland got him for a bargain, although he is a restricted free agent, like you just said. Just giving like that late Bucks first round pick, like, oh, that was a steal. Like I really wanted that for us. But yeah, he seems like a really great defensive player, walking double double, non-selfish. I think he's like a perfect guy you can fit on any team. Like he seems to be shooting a little, like barely, but it seems like that 3-point shot is coming a little bit. Maybe he can develop that with the Raptors. That'd be great. But I've heard like a lot of reports that he wants like he could get $100 million. So I don't know if that's like 4 or 5 years. So it's either like 20, 25 mil per year. So it's either if we believe in him that much to be our center for the long time future.
Well, that's a lot of money. Now, I don't know if I like Jared Allen, but I don't know if I like him at 24 to 25 million a year. Again, depends on the years on that contract, but that's quite a bit of money
Yeah.
for someone who's obviously is a really nice player. Don't get me wrong. And he could definitely develop his shot and develop more in the Raptors system. I personally, again, I wouldn't want to be paying him 25 million. I don't know what your thoughts are. Personally, I would hope we can get a bargain. There's not that many teams with
Hmm.
cap space as well. So that's another thing I want to mention. I believe I was doing some research, and there's only about 7 teams or so with a lot of decent cap space. Miami Heat obviously being one of them, the Raptors, and there's some other random teams in there like Memphis. New York Knicks might be one team that might try to lure him, but then there's other teams like Oklahoma City, the Hornets, and I don't see the Spurs trying to go out and sign big free agents. So that puts the Raptors at the top of the teams in free agency. So we don't know. Maybe they're able to private not only Jared Allen but other guys as well.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the years. Like that fifth year, that would have to be like a sign and trade, right? Because we can only give him 4 years. So if it was 4 years, 100 mil, that'd be 25, and that's kind of pushing it for someone who hasn't really racked up any accolades yet. So yeah, if it was a sign and trade, do you want to give up assets? It's a tricky situation. I love the player, but you might want to go for a little bit cheaper options. So for the last person I want to talk about is another guy the Raptors were interested at the trade deadline, but it just didn't transpire. Is Spencer Dinwiddie. He has a player option next year. He's been hurt, as we all know, and he's coming off like he had 20 points last year when the Nets didn't have Kyrie and KD for most of that, and he's like a guy. Me and JJ Buckets talked about this. Like he could lead our second unit, give us some scoring, give us some playmaking. If he opts out of that player option, he'd give us like a 1 year, 2 year deal. I feel like it's like a reclamation project. He has something to prove. I feel like he'd work really well with the Raptors. And although we don't necessarily need guards per se, it could be like a Kyle Lowry replacement.
Yeah, no, I agree. As soon as you mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie, I initially thought of, you know what, he can run our second unit because he's a really high IQ player. I watched him years ago when he first kind of broke out in the scene in the NBA, and I was watching a lot of his games, and he's a really smart player. He makes smart plays that may not show up on the stat sheet. He gets his teammates involved and he goes and attacks the bucket as well. And then he provides us with some size as well. And I know you mentioned guards, but I believe he's
Mm-hmm.
6'4", 6'5". So that even if we play him at that shooting guard position with Malachi Flynn, it gives us another ball handler. And you know what? He's a really smart player. So we can have him on the team and provide some much needed scoring off the bench. And maybe because he's coming off a big injury, maybe we can try and get him for a cheap deal, maybe a 2 year deal with a team option or something like that, pay him 10, 12 million. We'll see what happens. But that's what I was thinking as well about as soon as you mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I mean, like he's still like decently young, you know what I mean? He's still 27. I feel like he's not that old. I feel like he has plenty to give. He said he's wanting to stay in Brooklyn, that he was happy he didn't get traded at the deadline. Um, I don't know how necessarily true that is. I mean, like with all the guys that Brooklyn has brought in, maybe he wants like a bigger role in the Raptors. You know what I mean? I feel like his role will be kind of diminished as they have a lot of ball handlers already on that Brooklyn team. So, yeah, our second unit I feel like needs a decent amount of work as it seems like it's slipped in recent games. Um, And yeah, I feel like he'd be a perfect fit.
All right, so last guy I want to talk about is Lauri Markkanen. I've been really high on this guy. I know Raptors fans, I've been reading online, have not been really big on him because he's had injury problems. He's failed to kind of stay on the court with his ongoing injury issues. But I really like him because he's a young player who can shoot that 3-point ball. He's also a 7-foot center. He's around same height and weight as Jared Allen, 242 pounds, but he stretches the floor. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself here when I mentioned that it shouldn't really matter if the big man can shoot that three, but he's one of those guys you can really fit in the Raptors system because he's a big center who can shoot the three and he can score at will as well. So that'll really help relieve some pressure off of guys like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. And he's another issue we have, though. He is a restricted free agent, unfortunately. So we'll have to really pry him away from the Bulls. What are your thoughts on Lauri Markkanen?
Well, I think Lauri Markkanen is actually a little bit more realistic after this trade deadline than before. As since they got Nikola Vucevic, he seems to be pushed to the bench as they seem to be starting Thad Young over him, as they want to get more scoring in the paint, and defense has been a problem for them. As Lauri Markkanen is not the best defender in the world, and he doesn't really bring too much of an inside presence, so that would have to be something the Raptors fix or work on. But for sure, he's a marksman. It goes with his name. And I think he has like a lot of potential. You know what I mean? It's like you see a little bit of Porzingis in this guy. And you could be like a steal that if you could develop him right.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe in Nick Nurse's system, we can get him playing some defense. I don't know how well the Bulls play defense, so I don't think they're that good. And you know what? Another issue I do want to bring about Lauri Markkanen. Unfortunately, he's not a great rebounder. He did have a season, I think, a few years ago, where he averaged 7 or 8 rebounds, but he's not really known for his rebounding. So that is another thing the Raptors would have to consider if they were to sign Lauri Markkanen at that power. He's listed as a power forward, but technically in the modern NBA, you can play him at that center position. So.
All right. Before we end this video, I just want to give something for the people watching. Give us one prediction what you feel the Raptors will do. These are targets you think you'd want. What would you say is a prediction you think they'll do?
Absolutely. I agree. Let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to like this video, guys. Subscribe to Clutch Take. He has some awesome videos. So, and don't forget to hit me up too. I'm the Warriors Report.
See you guys next time.
See you.